everybody, I'm John Dutton, and this is Spelled Ink. It's been quite a while since we met because we had a month with 5 Fridays in it, and that usually puts a big gap in it too. So I'm glad we're back. And I'm going to kick us off with a poem that I wrote. I was putzing with one day, probably waiting for the softball games to begin, and it's called The Day My Muse Took Me Home, and I wrote it on my phone. So here it is. The day my muse took me home. I stood looking out my room's window on the dawn of a dismal day. As the deluge pounded the windows and the thunder always had something to say. I twisted my tattered notebook due to a bit of fear and double-checked the dull pencil tucked behind my ear. I wantonly eyed the bottle of Beefeaters on the nightstand, with my nightcap sitting silently near my withered, calloused hand. Knowing I, like the yeoman warder on the bottle, will never complete another step, my dreams now dashed of being the next overnight celeb. Oh, how I wished I could take just another sip or sup sunshine on the deck of a cruising ship. My eyes wandered to the buffoon in the corner. He's definitely not one of, hopefully, my many mourners. My muse had fallen asleep over his vintage Smith Corona. He must have been exhausted from all that hot yoga. He woke from a deep slumber and upon seeing my disheveled shape, adjusted his Armani glasses and drew deeply off his sterling vape. He arose from the lone chair in the sterile room and asked, "When did you depart?" I wanted to respond with something crass, but didn't have the heart. As he sat on the bed beside my decrepit form, wishing I'd passed on the bed of a co-ed's dorm, I answered, "I remember Fallon's opening monologue. Did he need the laugh track or gain the crowd's applause? Don't they all? He sent me off with a smile nonetheless. That's a plus on collection day, as you get no last requests. I hate leaving with too many books not read and so many stories still swimming in my head. Well, you'll get to talk with the sources on many of them, and where you're going, your pencil will never run out of lead. You know, I want to witness greatness never winded. Blind Melon Jefferson, Aretha Franklin, Bon Scott, and Randy Rhoads, to name a few. I want to sit beside my heroes in the early morning dew. I want to listen to Bradbury as he recites tomorrow, tomorrow, and tomorrow. I want to never grow weary as I dance to the bolero. I want Chaucer to whisper me the ending of his Canterbury Tales, then find a sober Hemingway and discuss his favorite ales. My muse asked, "Shall we go? There's always a show." I glanced at the nightstand with my widowed drink under the lamp's warm glow, where the stained, crumpled envelope was tucked securely under my outdated cell phone. My scrawl still legible after years of repeating the nightly ritual my nurses grudgingly condoned. For whoever will bury my sorry ass, there are no tears today. I have 40 hours of music on Spotify, so just hit play. Have it turned up to an 11 and provide plenty of free beer. Make sure you stop and read some poetry and prose filled with cheer. Let's face facts. You'll see me again real soon, but for now, celebrate with me until the next full moon. Oh, you always had a way with words, my muse chortled as he stepped into the corridor. We wandered the antiseptic-laced hallway and strolled out the hospice front door. And that is, the day my muse took me home.
The first one is called Will You Hear Me? Will you hear me in the silence of space where the unknown dream catcher is a web between stars, dark matter glitters, dreams or the unknown spreads, a loom that catches our hopes, and nothing is left to come out of broken boxes. Blueberry ice. In the old country, before time of warning, you watched the blueberries drip with water and rain. Now all cold crops, those bits of juice that needed winter sleep, are gone along with snow and ice and fall and falling leaves. Now again, only ferns and the family of ragweed grow in deserted farms. The puff knots of the alder tree are gone, and no ink is formed to fill pens. Dreams are fantasy, myth, legend. People who are left do not communicate. We who are left are devolved to grunts and the whisper of music. And then the final one was based on a prompt from Painted Words, which is a UK website that has a prompt every month. And this one was actually selected, so it was posted online. So it was my first internet publication. Universal Circus. Under the big top, beneath the lights and paint and the sparkle smile, shadows rise and threaten to outlast the glamour and the ride. Blue liner and smile, the outside sheen, but inside knobby-kneed and hugging legs. I watch nets and safety tumble away, and with no line to reel in my fears, can only wait for another day of enjoyment to be over. I dance in shadow. I cannot see the rise, only fall after fall under the big top. Thank you.
This is called Spilled Ink. We place our pens in printed inkwells, searching for just the right words, hoping not to write the absurd. We share our dreams, frustrations, and love for expressing inner thoughts that may cast a light on a slice of life or an unspoken fear. We respect each other's scribblings and frequently admire flashes of brilliance. Then we wish were ours. The written word exudes such power. May we never take it for granted. And I have one called Music. Music keeps me company when there is none. Some melody soothes my tired soul. Some music leads us to a better place. Listen carefully to songs that touch the heart and keep us from falling apart. Hear the music, tap the feet, feel the beat, snap your fingers, dance anywhere you please. Music, my friend forever. And one short one, hate. Refuse hate. Don't let it steal your soul. Take a stand and say, hey man, hate don't live here anymore. It is not allowed. Push it out the door and may it exist no more. That's all. Thank you.
A couple months ago, I think Naomi Shihab and I made a global home site and asked people to drop some lines in, and she had several prompts. One of them was a Dear Vaccine. So that's what I'm going to read tonight. I thought it would be appropriate after yesterday's news, so to speak. Dear Vaccine, lift us out of darkness into sunlight and hope. Lift us out of fear of illness, of loss. Lift us so mourning and grief don't defeat us. Lift us from isolation, the habit of staying home, difficult to break, like butterflies venturing out in spring, skittish around humans. Lift us out of separation, from suspicion of neighbors, strangers. Inspire us to share a drink, a bite with family, friends. Lift us into dreams as we imagine our futures. Inspire our creativity, art, poetry, music, theater, film, sustaining us, reaching us where we are, at home. Lift us from hatred, xenophobia, ignorance, inability to discern fact from fiction, truth from lies, that fuel separation from those we call other. Lift us to trust in nature, in the cycles of birds that return each spring, robins reaching for worms, bluebirds gracing feeders, flaunting blue feather tones. Lift us into kindness, lift us into love, into hope, for unity, dear Vaccine, lift us into gratitude as you deliver us to treetops of freedom. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to do 3. The first one is the final flight of the boomers. Listen, this is it. Last chance. What have you learned after all this time? Peace, yeah. An undeclared war. What was and what is? Night is come. Soon you will be gone. What have you learned? Last chance. Speak now, or you will forever hold your peace. P-I-E-C-E. So that was Last Flight of the Boomers. The second one I'm going to do, I did the first part of this at Poets Anonymous, and I finally got around to finishing it. This is called Daily To-Do List. 1, arise, arise from my nocturnal cradle. 2, compose an aroma that would compel any creature to consume and imbibe the transcendent regalement I must prepare to shatter the deprivation of nourishment needed if I am to experience the mind trip and seeming absence of stimuli that is so vital to my very sanity. 3, don a raiment that is apropos to the human condition as it applies to this humble entity. 4, hurtle more than 1.5 tons of machinery through a labyrinth of concrete, desperately trying to avoid thousands of other machines piloted by beings spellbound by dramas and reveries, set upon by a cacophony of noise and hypnotized by lights, many of which are or are perceived to be vital to the very survival, not only of them and me, but also to many of the beings surrounding us. 5, wait a minute. How many times can you talk about eating, sleeping, traveling, and working without being repetitive? Skip to the evening. 5, again, write a poem to cure the emotional angst that is making us all snail-brained. 6, write a poem that will begin a movement that will eventually lead to world peace and bring an end to hunger. 7, write a poem that will inspire someone to cure cancer and whose research will lead to the conquering of all disease and extend human life expectancy to an age, any age the individual might choose. 8, watch TV. That's that one. And the final one, this serious song. This is called The Danger of Red. Red blood, red wine hit the carpet. Red eyes as my mother cried. Red marks slam my face for the chores I forget. Red lights were flashing as Sam, my brother, died. That night came like any other. Booze flowed and shouts burst in the air. Sam and I huddled near by the TV in fear, praying we'd find a way in there. You can't know, I love my brother, but he shouldn't have said what he said. If he'd kept his mouth shut and not spilled his gut, he'd have a bruise, not be lying cold and dead. Red blood, red wine hit the carpet. Red eyes as my mother cried. Red marks slammed my face for the chores I forget. Red lights were flashing as Sam, my brother, died. Dad asked him to pass the ketchup. He got pork stabbed for reaching across me. But when Sam asked me to pass, Dad paddled his ass just a week ago for being so lazy. Paul was rubbing his hand as he stood up. He stared Dad straight in the eye. I'm better than you and that hate that you spew, Dad bellowed with a fearsome raging cry. Then red blood, red wine hit the carpet. There were red eyes as my mother cried. Old marks were on my face where chores not done yet. The red lights went on flashing where Sam, my brother, lied. That's that.
I'm Robert. I'm a writer from Delaware. I'm going to read from my file, which is in progress. So most of these are just first drafts. The first one is a haiku. How long from love to hate? A million beats to learn hate to love is the same. This is another haiku I wrote today. Irresistible, carrying air attracts vultures. Anaconda lunch. And this was from the prompt. Your father fixes something, but it's still broken. Fridge won't fridge. Freezer over freezes. DIY. LIY. Do it yourself. Leave it yourself. Bologna trashed. Fries a drive-through window. Fridge stay away order. And I'll read one more. I went to a workshop led by Joanne Belingit. She was the poet laureate of the state of Delaware. And she introduced us to these one-line poems called Monostitches. And I wrote a monostitches which carried on to the next line. Father, Father, why did you give me your car keys? Out of your navy blue sailor suit, you're a man. Goober clusters stuck to tooth number 15 on bite wing x-ray. When shade is not enough, give grave. That's it for me.